Hello, and welcome to my presentation for Tiny Homes LEED Certification, Requirements Analysis and Design Definition. My name is Matthew Wiesker, and I am the business analyst for the project. To begin this sprint, we wanted to start out by specifying and modeling our requirements. We modeled the requirements with the help of prototypes from our friends over at houseplans.com. We gave them some criteria to build us a few prototypes that we could use during our discussions about these possible solutions. And they delivered us 5 prototypes that we could use while we discussed these things. We wanted to keep functional requirements in mind, so we wanted to make sure that it's LEED and green certifiable, that the design is going to be friendly for that, that it's going to cost us no more than 10% of our budget for an average unit, and we wanted to keep an eco-friendly user in mind. And also that ties right into keeping the solutions within project scope. There again, being 10% cost, that's a huge thing. We wanted to make sure that the designs aren't going to be anything too drastic, that it's going to, 1, add more time onto the build process, and 2, cost more money for us to develop it. So here are the prototypes that our friends at houseplans.com mocked up for us really quick. Starting on the left-hand side, you can see the water reservoir that is inside of a storage unit inside the tiny home. The next one is multiple different options of styles of windows that you could put into a unit. We don't have the exact windows that we would use from our supplier, but this is just a rough design of the styles we could use. The next one over is a tiny home with the solar panels added onto it. The next one, far right on the top, is a dual flush toilet that compacts nicely underneath a sink in the bathroom, creating a lot more space for the end user. And then the far right bottom is just a brief setup of what the kitchen would look like with some Energy Star appliances and the appliances that we could use. Next, we wanted to verify our requirements. The functional requirements of the project, like I stated before, are that it needs to be LEED and green certifiable on its own. That's a pretty big one. We don't want to combine 2 of these solutions together just due to the possible risk of one of the vendors maybe not pulling through. It's a risk that we really don't want to take, adding another 2 solutions into the equation. And that also goes into, is the product readily available? There's a few items in here that the supplier just doesn't have a lot of items right now. So we discussed that as a team to work on getting around that. And we came away with our requirements of the product needs to be readily available, able to buy in bulk, something that we can store on site, and it needs to be LEED certifiable on its own. We don't want to have to add other things onto it. So we wanted to validate the requirements, and we made assumptions for the project. The first assumption is that the solution will be LEED and green certifiable. The second option is that it'll cost no more than 10% of an average unit's budget. It is assumed that the solution will drive sales in the first year, and it is also assumed that the solution will reduce energy output for the units as time goes on. So we held a review with the Tiny Homes team, and Nick and Pat really took on a role more so as approvers as well as teammates during this process for the reviewing. Obviously, them being the owner and co-owner, they are the ones that ultimately have the decision here. The solution must be LEED certifiable. The solution must label the company green. The solution must not cost more than 10% of our average unit. The solution must not add more than 1 day of work for the build team, and the solution must be readily available for purchase, as well as the solution must appeal to an eco-friendly clientele. These are the requirements that we validated as a team at the end of the meeting. So now we go into our defined requirements architecture. So we had a discussion of all of our solutions. We wanted to make sure that they would fit our project the best way possible. And when we did this, we ordered them as a group from least risky to most risky. The least risky being the solar, because it is certifiable on its own and it has the potential to develop further with larger sizes. And then it goes into a tie between the windows, the appliances, and the dual flush toilets, and then followed up by the water reservoir. And then can we work around our project scope to accommodate? At this point in the process, we really don't want to do that. We want to stay what's within our scope for the project to get the best possible solution, which leads us into our analyze potential value and recommend a solution. So overall, the project goal is to be green and LEED certified, but also a leader in home automation. So the value of the solutions with this, solar is a very top contender because it achieves our goals with the least amount of effort going into it, and it has the potential for us to grow with larger sizes depending on pricing for Tesla. So as a team, we recommended choosing the Tesla solar panels for the next stage of the process. And that is what we are going to be working on in the next sprint. Thank you everyone for participating.